Imagine a rose trying to be a sunflower, or the moon jealous of the sun's shine. It sounds silly, doesn't it? But that's exactly what we do every day. We compare our chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 20. And in that comparison, we kill our peace, we kill our joy, we kill ourselves. My dear friends, today I invite you to look within. Not at the world outside, not at your neighbor's success, not at someone else's talent or beauty, but deep within yourself. In the ancient wisdom of life, we are reminded every soul has its unique purpose, its own rhythm, its own time to bloom. But when we look sideways at others, instead of looking inward, we lose sight of who we really are. And that's where suffering begins. Today, let's break this habit. Let's stop comparing and start living. Imagine waking up one morning and instead of reaching for your phone, instead of scrolling through perfect pictures, glowing faces, six-packs, vacations, luxury cars, or glamorous lifestyles, you simply took a deep breath and said to yourself, I am enough. Now pause. How often do we do that? Rarely, right? Because from the moment we open our eyes, the world begins whispering. Look at them, they're ahead of you. They're happier than you. They've achieved more than you. And those whispers grow louder throughout the day, through social media, through conversations, sometimes even in our own homes. This constant noise is not just distracting, it's damaging. Why? Because when we compare ourselves to others, we are using someone else's life as a measuring stick for our own worth. And here's the painful truth. No matter how much we have, there will always be someone who has more. So where does that leave us? In a race with no finish line. Let me tell you a simple, real-life story. There was once a boy in school, bright, intelligent, creative. He loved drawing, storytelling, and making people laugh. But every exam season, he felt like a failure. Why? Because his best friend was a math genius, always topping the class. And while the boy got praise for his humor or art, the world around him valued marks. Slowly, he started believing, maybe I'm not good enough. His joy dimmed. His self-worth shrank, not because he lacked talent, but because he was comparing apples to oranges and thinking the apple wasn't sweet enough. Isn't that what we do every day? We ignore our gifts because someone else shines differently. But my friends, the sun doesn't try to be the moon. The lotus doesn't envy the rose. And a bird doesn't feel insecure watching a fish swim. Everything in nature thrives because it accepts its uniqueness. We as humans, however, have mastered the art of self-judgment through comparison. Let me ask you, have you ever felt proud of something until you saw someone else did it better? Maybe you were happy about losing 3 kilos until you saw someone who lost 10. Maybe you finally bought a scooter, but then your friend posted a photo with a car. Maybe you got a job, but then someone else got a better paying one. In those moments, your happiness, once full and complete, starts to shrink, not because it was small, but because comparison poisoned it. It's like holding a glass of clean, pure water. But then someone tells you, my glass is bigger, or my glass has lemon in it. Suddenly, your pure water doesn't feel good enough anymore, even though it still quenches your thirst just the same. One of the greatest diseases of the modern mind is this constant evaluations. Am I good enough compared to them? And the cure is this: I am good enough because I am me. True peace begins when you stop looking sideways and start looking inward. Instead of asking, why don't I have what they have? Ask, what do I have that I've forgotten to be grateful for? That shift from comparison to appreciation is the difference between anxiety and contentment. The saddest part of comparison is that it blinds us to our own blessings. Someone may be wishing for your life while you're too busy wanting someone else's. That student you envy for getting first rank, maybe he envies your confidence. That colleague with a better salary, maybe he wishes he had your peace of mind. That friend in a relationship, maybe they silently admire your freedom. You never know who's secretly wishing they had your life while you're wishing for theirs. Let me remind you, nobody posts their pain online. Nobody updates their failures with filters. What you see is never the full truth. So stop comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel. You are a masterpiece in progress. Every flower blooms in its own time. Just because someone else's season has come doesn't mean yours won't. The next time you catch yourself scrolling, sighing, or sinking into self-doubt, take a moment. Close your eyes. Say to yourself, I am on my journey, I have my path, I walk at my pace, and I will bloom in my time. Say it with faith, not just once, but until it becomes a belief so deep that no comparison can shake it. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right where you're meant to be. And the more you accept that truth, the lighter your heart will feel. The more you will smile at others' success, not with envy, but with encouragement. Because you'll know their win is not your loss, and your story is still being written. So live with presence, walk with grace, and remember, the only person you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Be better, not bitter. Be grateful, not greedy. And most importantly, be you, because no one else can. Every day, we wake up and step into a world that subtly, and sometimes loudly, tells us we are not enough. Through ads, influencers, success stories, rankings, awards, and achievements, society constantly presents an invisible scoreboard. And what do most of us do? We start playing the game, not the game of life, growth, or purpose, but the exhausting, endless game of comparison. And in this game, we rarely win. Because no matter how far we've come, there's always someone who seems to be further. No matter how much we have, there's always someone who seems to have more. And no matter how happy we are, someone else appears happier. What we often don't realize is this: comparison is not just an unhelpful habit, it's a direct attack on our inner peace. Let me give you a simple daily example. Imagine you're feeling quite content one day. You're wearing your favorite outfit, feeling confident. You step out of the house or check your phone, and suddenly you see a friend in a brand new designer outfit posing in front of a luxury car. Instantly, your contentment fades. Your outfit feels plain. Your life feels boring. What changed? Did your clothes become less beautiful? Did your day become less meaningful? No. The only thing that changed was your focus. That's the dangerous nature of comparison. It's like standing in your warm, comfortable home and staring into your neighbor's window, imagining their life is better, without knowing what's happening behind their curtains. Peace doesn't vanish because we lack something. It disappears when we stop appreciating what we already have. This is especially true in relationships. A happily married woman may suddenly feel insecure because someone she knows posted a picture with their partner holding flowers and chocolates. A man who was content with his job may suddenly feel frustrated because his college friend just got promoted abroad. You see, the problem isn't their success. The problem is our reaction. The moment we allow their story to disturb our peace, we've already handed over control of our happiness. But peace is not something you find outside. It's something you protect inside. And comparison steals that protection. In ancient wisdom, we're reminded again and again, the mind is like a monkey, it jumps. And when we allow it to jump into someone else's life, someone else's timeline, someone else's blessings, it forgets the beautiful fruit in its own hand. A restless mind cannot be a peaceful one. If you're constantly looking at others, thinking, why don't I have that? Or why am I not there yet? Then you're building a life on lack, not love. And when the foundation of your thoughts is lack, even the best moments feel empty. Let me give you another simple but powerful illustration. Think of two friends. One wakes up every morning and begins the day by checking their phone, scrolling, comparing, consuming everyone's life but their own. The second friend wakes up, stretches, looks out the window, takes a breath, and says, "Thank you." Now both may have similar lives, but their inner worlds are entirely different. One begins with noise, the other with stillness. One with pressure, the other with peace. Who do you think walks through the day with more strength? Who do you think sleeps at night with more clarity? That peace doesn't come from silence around us. It comes from silence within us. And we create that silence by letting go of comparison. By reminding ourselves, I am not in a race. I am on a journey. And the only one I must beat is the version of me from yesterday. You see, real peace isn't loud. It's not about proving anything. It's not about being ahead of others. It's about being aligned with who you are, what you value, and how you live. When you chase alignment instead of applause, peace becomes your default setting. So the next time you feel comparison creeping in, stop, breathe. Remind yourself, they have their story and I have mine. Their win is not my loss. Their chapter doesn't define mine. I can cheer for them without doubting myself. I can be happy for them without questioning my worth. There's a beautiful quote that says, admire someone's light without thinking your own is dim. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be like them. You were meant to be like you. And that leads us to one of the most powerful shifts you can make in life. Instead of letting comparison defeat you, let it inspire you. If someone's strength intimidates you, let it motivate you. If someone's success stings a little, let it remind you what's possible. Not in a way that makes you feel small, but in a way that shows you what can be done with dedication, discipline, and purpose. Use their journey not as a mirror, but as a map. Let's say your friend started their own business and it's thriving. Instead of thinking, I could never do that, shift your thought to, if they can create something meaningful, maybe I can too, in my own way. Maybe it won't be the same kind of success, maybe it won't be the same timeline, but it can be your version of growth. The difference between envy and inspiration is just a shift in mindset. One leads to bitterness, the other leads to action. Envy says, I wish that were mine. Inspiration says, I'm ready to grow too. One is passive and painful. The other is active and powerful. In this world of endless comparisons, let your mind be the one that pauses, that reflects, and then chooses peace. Choose to admire others without abandoning yourself. Choose to be inspired, not insecure. Because the day you stop letting comparison control your emotions is the day you truly begin to live. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be progressing. But the problem is, in today's world, we've placed perfection on such a high pedestal that even taking the first step feels like a failure. When we see someone doing something better than us, instead of being motivated, we get discouraged. And the reason for that discouragement is simple. We expect ourselves to be excellent before we've even started. We forget that progress is a process, not a moment. Imagine this. You join a gym for the first time. You walk in full of hope, energy, and excitement. But then you see someone lifting heavy weights with ease, their body toned, their form flawless. And suddenly, you look at yourself, awkward, unsure, maybe even struggling with your first warm up. What happens next? That little voice in your head says, "You'll never be like them." Not because you can't, but because you expect to be perfect on day one. That's where we lose the battle, not in the effort, but in the unrealistic expectation. But here's the truth: no one started strong. Everyone you admire once stood where you are now. Every expert was once a beginner. Every confident speaker once stumbled over their words. Every successful person once faced self-doubt. The difference is, they chose to keep going. They didn't stop because someone else was ahead. They focused on their own steps, no matter how small. Think about children learning to walk. They fall again and again, but they never say, "Walking isn't for me." They don't compare themselves to the child who's already running. They don't feel ashamed when they stumble. They try, they get up, they laugh, they move. And one day, without even realizing it, they're walking, running, dancing. If children compared themselves the way adults do, none of us would be walking today. Progress isn't always visible. Sometimes your growth is quiet. It happens in the background. It's in the decisions you make when no one is watching. Like choosing to read instead of scrolling. Like choosing to take a breath before reacting. Like waking up 5 minutes earlier just to meditate. These are small wins, invisible to the world, but powerful for your soul. You don't need to post your progress for it to be real. You don't need to be recognized to be worthy. And you certainly don't need to be perfect to be proud. If yesterday you were overwhelmed and today you're trying, that's progress. If last week you gave up too soon, but today you're giving it one more shot, that's progress. If you've fallen 100 times, but still believe in rising, that's progress. Now let's take another example, learning a skill. Maybe you want to play an instrument, start painting, or learn a new language. At first, your fingers fumble, your colors mix wrong, your grammar sounds off, and it feels frustrating. But ask yourself, did the best artist paint a masterpiece in one day? Did the best musician create harmony in one lesson? Never. They gave themselves permission to be imperfect. They made space for mistakes. That's what allowed them to grow. Yet we often deny ourselves that same patience. We rush the process. We compare our first draft to someone else's final version. And when we do that, we rob ourselves of the joy of learning. Because the joy isn't just in the result, it's in the journey. It's in every small improvement, every tiny win, every step forward, no matter how shaky. Let's look at nature for wisdom. The bamboo tree is planted and watered every day, but it doesn't even break the surface for the first 4 years. Imagine that. No visible growth, no green shoot, nothing to show for years of effort. But the farmer keeps watering it. Then, in the 5th year, the bamboo shoots up, sometimes 80 feet, in just a few weeks. So what was happening all those years? Silent growth, roots forming deep and strong enough to support that sudden rise. You are like that bamboo tree. Maybe no one sees your growth yet, maybe even you don't. But the effort you put in today, it's not wasted. It's building the roots of your future strength. Your job is not to grow overnight. Your job is to stay consistent, stay committed, and keep watering your dreams. So let go of the pressure to be perfect. Let go of the need to arrive. Focus on movement. Celebrate progress. If you're 1% better today than yesterday, that's enough. That's powerful. That's success. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the days you thought didn't matter were the days that built you. The quiet mornings, the silent efforts, the lonely practice, the second chances, they made you who you are. Perfection is an illusion. Progress is your reality. Embrace it. Walk your path. And remember, no one can walk it better than you. We live in a time where someone else's success is always right in front of our eyes. Constantly available with a scroll, a click, a swipe. It's easy to feel small when the world seems so loud about achievement. But what if, instead of allowing that feeling to make you shrink, you allowed it to make you rise? What if, instead of letting comparison make you bitter, you let it make you better? By turning it into inspiration, there's a very subtle difference between jealousy and inspiration. The former says, why them? While the latter says, if they can, maybe I can too. It's the difference between closing your heart and opening your mind. And this shift, though small, can transform how you experience the world around you. Let me share a simple example from daily life. Imagine you've been wanting to start your own online business, maybe selling handmade products, clothing, food, or art. You've been thinking about it for months, maybe even years. But fear holds you back. One day, you see someone from your neighborhood, someone your age, with a similar background, starting something online, and it takes off. Suddenly, that old feeling of comparison creeps in. You feel left behind. You think they had support, they had resources I don't. You start creating reasons why it worked for them but won't for you. But pause here. What if, instead of letting their success make you feel smaller, you saw it as a sign? A reminder from the universe that if they could do it, you can too, in your own way, at your own pace. That's the power of inspiration. It doesn't steal your light, it ignites it. Another example. A friend of yours gets into shape. They start waking up early, eating right, exercising regularly. You see their transformation, and something inside you shifts. But what will you do with that feeling? Will you let it become envy, or will you let it become energy? The truth is, we often don't realize how much power we give away when we let comparison control our emotions. But when we use that same energy to fuel our dreams, we become unstoppable. There is no weakness in admiring someone else. In fact, true strength lies in being able to appreciate another person's success without questioning your own potential. Even in relationships, careers, or talents, we often let jealousy close the door on possibility. She sings better than me, so I won't try. He's better at public speaking, so I'll stay quiet. They've already done what I was thinking to do. What's the point now? But think about this. The world doesn't need just one good singer, one successful speaker, one strong business. There is room for everyone. Your voice has its own sound. Your ideas have their own flavor. Your journey has its own timing. Don't silence yourself just because someone else found their rhythm earlier. Learn from them. Let their rhythm inspire your steps, not replace them. When you shift your mindset from competition to inspiration, every person around you becomes a teacher. Every achievement becomes a lesson. Every success becomes a mirror, not of what you lack, but of what is possible. One of the most inspiring aspects of life is this: no one has everything figured out. Even those who seem ahead of you are still learning, still struggling, still falling and rising. You're not behind. You're just on a different path. Someone else's success doesn't mean your time has passed. In fact, it might mean your time is coming. It might mean the dream you've been quietly carrying is more possible than you thought. But only if you let other stories fuel you, not freeze you. Let's take one more simple moment. Standing at a traffic light. You're walking home, thinking about your life, and a fancy car pulls up next to you. You glance at the person driving. Instantly, 100 thoughts rush through your mind. Look at that lifestyle. I'll never reach there. But what if you flipped the thought and said, if the road can take them there, maybe it can take me too. That one change in perspective turns a passing car into a passing blessing, a reminder, a gentle push forward. Inspiration is everywhere, but only if you're willing to see it that way. Don't be afraid to admire others. Don't be afraid to cheer them on. When you clap for someone else with a genuine heart, you raise your own vibration, and you tell the universe, I'm ready, I'm open. Show me my path. Even the sun rises without rushing. The moon glows without noise. Flowers bloom without comparing petals. Likewise, you have your own season to shine. Until then, let the light of others remind you that brightness is real. That growth is happening. That greatness is not exclusive. So, the next time you see someone doing well, don't shrink, smile, be inspired. Let their journey water your own roots. Let their rise awaken something in you. Because the truth is, their success does not take away from your potential. It proves it. In a world full of comparison, be the one who transforms it into inspiration. Because when you start seeing others as proof, not threat, you begin to unlock your own power. And that, my friend, is where your journey truly begins. In a world constantly moving, constantly demanding, constantly comparing, what if I told you that true joy doesn't come from having more, being more, or achieving more than others, but simply from being in tune with yourself? What if the peace you've been chasing through status, praise, possessions, and validation has actually been quietly waiting inside you all along? Too often, we measure our happiness with external markers, the size of our home, the balance in our account, the compliments we receive, the achievements we collect. But joy that is built on those things is fragile, because all of those things can change. And when they do, so does your happiness. That's not real joy, that's rented happiness. Let me share a simple but powerful example from daily life. Think about how we feel when we receive a compliment. Maybe someone says, "You look great today," or "You did a fantastic job on that project." You smile, feel good, but then maybe the next day, no one says anything. You start wondering, was I not good today? Slowly, your mood shifts. Why? Because your sense of joy was borrowed from someone else's opinion. And the moment they stopped giving it, you felt empty. But now consider this. Have you ever had a day when you were completely at peace without any validation? A day where you were fully present, doing something you love? Maybe walking in nature, spending time with family, walking quietly on your passion, and felt genuinely content. That kind of joy doesn't come from outside. It rises from within. That's the joy worth holding on to. Because that joy cannot be taken away by someone else's success, someone else's opinion, or someone else's attention. This is where the power of living from the inside out begins. Real joy isn't found by looking sideways. It's found by looking inward. And yet, how often do we forget that? Let's say you post something online, a photo, a piece of writing, your thoughts. You're excited about it. But when it doesn't get as many likes or comments as you hoped, you begin to question its value, and worse, your own. But here's the truth: the value of what you create, what you say, who you are, isn't defined by how many people notice it. It's defined by how aligned it is with your truth. Did it come from your heart? Was it honest? Was it meaningful to you? If yes, then that's enough. Because when your joy depends on the world, it will always be unstable. But when it comes from inside, when it flows from purpose, self-respect, alignment, and peace, it becomes unshakable. Even in relationships, this truth holds. Sometimes we look to others to make us feel whole, to love us in ways we haven't yet learned to love ourselves. But no matter how deeply someone else loves you, if you don't first love and respect yourself, that love will always feel incomplete. And even if someone praises you, if you haven't accepted your own worth, their words will never fully reach your heart. That's why inner joy is powerful. Because it's not given, it's built. Let's take a moment from everyday life. Imagine you're walking home after a long day. You didn't achieve anything big today. No one applauded you. No reward, no big win. But still, you took care of your responsibilities. You helped someone. You stayed calm in a tough situation. You kept going even when it was hard. As you walk, you feel a quiet satisfaction. No one may see it, but you know what you did. You know who you were. That's joy. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep and lasting. Real joy doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's a whisper that says, I'm proud of myself. And now think of children, how they find joy in the simplest things. A cardboard box becomes a spaceship. A puddle becomes an adventure. They don't need approval to feel happy. They don't need a reason, they just are. Somewhere along the way, we lose that. We replace wonder with worry and joy with judgment. But the inner child in you still exists. You can return to that space anytime by choosing presence over performance, gratitude over comparison, and simplicity over complexity. So ask yourself, are you living for the world's applause or your soul's alignment? Do you feel better only when others say you're doing well? Or can you look in the mirror, smile, and say, I'm growing, I'm trying, and that's enough. There's nothing wrong with enjoying success, recognition, or praise. But the moment your happiness depends on them, you become a prisoner to things you can't control. Free yourself from that. Choose to build your peace on something deeper, on values, effort, growth, love, and truth. Because in the end, the most joyful people are not those who have the most, but those who need the least to feel fulfilled. They are the ones who have mastered the art of living from within, who have stopped comparing, stopped performing, and started being. So start today. Turn inward. Find joy not in being better than someone else, but in being better than you were yesterday. Not in outshining others, but in understanding yourself. Not in competition, but in connection to your own soul. The more you return to yourself, the less you need the world to tell you who you are. And when that happens, joy becomes your natural state. Not a moment you chase, but a way of living you embody.